Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Bridge Coffee Roasters podcast. In today's episode, you're going to be listening to a conversation that Max and I had with Simon Wakefield. He is son of the founder and current chairman of DR Wakefield, a coffee importing and exporting company that work with producers, farmers and cooperatives and roasters and coffee buyers like us around the world. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will too. It's really interesting to hear Simon's perspective on his side of the industry. And there was also a lot of comparisons made between DR Wakefield and Bridge, between Simon and Max. They both grew up in family-run businesses, and they were drawing a lot of parallels there, which was really interesting. There are no sponsorships or ad breaks, so all we ask is that if you enjoy the episode, let us know by leaving a rating or review or liking the video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Let's get into episode 3 of the Bridge Coffee Roasters podcast featuring Simon Wakefield.
Are you actually recording already?
Yeah, I'm already going, yeah. Simon, thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the story of DR Wakefield.
So Wakefield started with my father back in 1970. He was the coffee buyer for Tetley's when Tetley did coffee and tea. Uh-huh. And one of his things, and we've still got it in the wall in our boardroom, a picture of him helping to pioneer the coffee bag, as in the catering bag.
Really?
Yeah. And he...
Do you mean the coffee bag that people put in a cup like a tea bag?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it would have 500 grams or something in this coffee bag.
500?
Into a large vat.
Into a large bulk brew.
Oh, right. I remember those.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when Tetley's relocated up north, he didn't want to move his family.
Okay.
And I was 5 years old. My mum had a better paid job than he did. And so he thought, he didn't really have enough options to buy green bean. So he thought he'd set up on his own. So
Fair enough.
And mum was the one that did all the invoices. So dad sold it during the day. Came home, gave her all the little notes, and she did the invoicing after she'd made dinner and put me to bed and got on with it.
That sounds so like the way our business started. Yeah.
Okay.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
The old man sort of doing his thing in the day, coming home, mum was looking after us kids, and then sort of doing the invoicing and all that sort of admin stuff in the evenings when we were all in bed.
Yes.
Literally started out of our front lounge.
Yeah, you forget it, and you still see it today. I mean, one of the customers I saw on this trip, the first one, I first met them with a 1 kilo roaster in their kitchen.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting.
What does Wakefield, the company, what does that look like now? Is that still predominantly in family or?
Yes, it is. No, it's still a family business. We're pretty proud of that one, to be honest. Quite a lot of people have been bought out, and we're still 100% family owned. My father owns a minor 5%. My mother, until she passed away recently, owned 5%, and then my wife and I have the rest of it. We're just moving some shares internally as well. So
yeah, good.
Yeah, so no, it's still 100% family owned.
Yeah. 54 years later, is it?
54 years later, yeah. No, it's we try to celebrate our 50th anniversary, but of course that's when COVID happened.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So it never happened. So I think the next celebration will be 60.
Yeah.
Those that had parties in that time didn't fare very well, did they?
Correct.
We've got our 40th coming up next year, so do something for that.
Absolutely.
Barbecue or something.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've been going into the office ever since I was a kid. So I go up there and roast some little coffee samples on their sample roaster, and throwing paper darts out the window or the fourth floor. And when I joined, would have been back in '86. I made 5, and there's about 35 now. But when I joined, I was doing some of the invoicing, sales, doing the QA. So I would roast them, do the cupping, send the samples out, see the brokers, hand deliver the samples, take the landed samples down to the big supermarket buyers like George Payne, Nestle.
Wow. How have How's the market changed since then? I mean, in terms of like coffee quality and perception of it, for example.
One of the phrase, certain things in your life stick in your mind, don't they?
They do.
I remember one customer telling me a number of years ago, soon after I started, when I was asked a quote for a Kenya AB.
Okay.
And I was told, you're way too expensive. I said, well, yeah, but I'm selling our particular AB from Kenya, from the supplier. We had called it Type Royal. And I was told, listen, Simon, Kenya AB is Kenya AB is Kenya AB. Price matters to me.
Wow.
And that seemed to be an awful lot of the thing. There weren't that many people who worried too much about the different qualities.
That's interesting.
And obviously over the years, it's got more and more about traceability, where the coffee's come from, what the story's got behind it, what is what makes a specialty coffee, which seems still be out there as for debate.
That's really interesting, because that's I suppose to a certain extent that's been my own coffee journey. Actually, it's like when I, like you, all I've ever known is coffee. I was always around at work as a little kid, annoying everyone, no doubt. But back then, from my limited experience, coffee was pretty much brown water.
Yes, yeah.
And it's so different now, isn't it?
It is, and I got fed up with being told I was too expensive all the time, because it's not about price. There's so much more to it. And the other one that sticks in my mind, it was up in the northwest. And I was asked I was trying to open a new account, and we'd only bought a few bags in a little speciality shop. And I think it was some Kenyans again, and it would have been around £3,500, £4,000 a tonne. And he said to me, listen, Simon, you're too expensive. I said, oh, okay, well, if I can drop the price to meet my competition this time, will you give me an order for it? He said, yes, okay. What was the price? Well, if it was £4,000, it was £3,995.
Oh, wow.
So I said, okay, I'll knock a £5 a tonne off. How many bags or tons do you want? Oh, I'll have 3 bags, please. and I think these are the sorts of moments when you think, I can't deal with this.
No.
There's so much more to it than
For
that.
sure.
And my holidays were to some coffee-producing countries. I'd had bring coffee producers or exporters home. It'd always been in the families, like yourself. And I'd spent a year working in P&G for my training when I was 19. And you get to know what work goes into making that coffee.
Yeah.
And I couldn't deal with that.
No, that's really interesting.
How was DR Wakefield's client base? Has it changed? And it's obviously grown, but has it changed much in the last 50 years?
Yes, it has. There are still customers who want a lower grade coffee. But when you look at who their customers are, it might be someone who's giving coffee away for free.
Yeah.
Then they have to give something. If we can import that coffee from a producer group and give them a better price for that coffee they can get for it locally, we will still do it.
Yep.
It still has that traceability to it, and it makes it sustainable. Because I remember being told by one of our suppliers that the reason he chose us was because we would buy his whole range, from the lower grades through to the premium, and not just cherry pick the cream of the cream. He said, because that's what makes me sustainable. He said, by default, I'm going to have some defects. And I need to get rid of all of my coffee in some way, shape or form.
Absolutely.
So I think that range is still there, but it's a smaller part of it. Our core business has always been and still is roasters who want a good quality to a premium quality coffee. And that is really where the volume of coffee is traded. They know what they want, though, which is different from it was 30 years ago. The education now is so much better.
Yeah.
So I think some of the roasters might be similar, but the education about how they buy and what they buy is so much.
So
better.
back in the day, then, back in the 80s, was it more a question of like a buyer of coffee would come to you and just say, "I need coffee. What can you do?" kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean our price list would be Kenya AA, plus, Kenya AA minus,
Oh, really?
Kenya FAQ. And then it was AA, AB, C, Peaberry. It would be Colombian Excelso, Colombian Supremo, might be a Honduras SHG,
Okay.
because no one bought HG,
Okay.
so they thought.
Okay.
It would be Costa Rica SHB. It would be P&G Y grade. It was very limited, really.
I see. So in that time period, then your actual range of coffee has grown
Dramatically. You know, we're probably trading over 1,000 coffees a year now.
Yeah. Wow.
How does that tell us about the process of bringing a new coffee into your range then? How does that work?
It usually comes from, a lot of it comes from our suppliers when they say we've got this to offer now,
Right.
or we've decided to make a new process that we're going to work with, or they've taken on some new machinery so that gives them a different opportunity.
Okay.
Occasionally it's worked from a roaster who says, I really like buying from this farm and I've been buying their washed coffee, but I'd like to buy some naturals.
Okay.
And so we've done trial runs with some of our suppliers, and you know we did one with a few years back with Honduras, and they'd be buying containers of washed coffee from them. And he said, I need natural. So we got the cooperative to agree to process 1 ton.
Right.
And he said, what happens if I muck it up the first time? And so, well, and we agreed with the roaster.
Yeah.
We said, okay, we'll split it, and we'll cover the cost for it because you're doing it at our request. So we will take the risk.
Yeah.
And in the first year he mucked it up, it was undrinkable. So we sold it in the local market.
Yeah.
And the second year he did pretty well. Third year he nailed it.
How can you muck that up?
He basically over fermented it.
Oh, really? Okay.
and he just left it out too long. It was
really?
Today it might be a really, really funky coffee.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really clean.
No. Okay.
So you know, even if it's a funky coffee, it's got to be clean.
For sure. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, because I listened to this podcast called Making Coffee with Lucia Solis. She's like a coffee fermentation expert.
Yes.
I think she did a recent episode on like marketing buzzwords, so like anaerobic fermentation and like thermal shock.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Is that all marketing jargon to sort of bump up the price a little bit, or?
No, I don't think it is. Yes, it does, but I don't think it is. I think it's the inquisitiveness, and I think that's the coffee industry. It's never been an industry to sit on its laurels and think, this is how we've always done it, we're not going to change. It's always look for new things and new ways of doing it. And if you can try doing something from another commodity, be it wines or be it, I don't know, maybe olive oils or how you press them, and you can try different things, or beer, and you can use different yeast with coffee, we'll try it. You might not like it.
But just keep experimenting, basically.
Correct.
Yeah,
you know, why stick with the same old?
Totally. Well, there's too many people in the industry now. I say too many. There's a lot of people in the industry that are in the industry for the love of coffee, not just because.
That's right.
Like you and I were born into it.
Yes.
But isn't there? I mean, you're one of those, aren't you?
Yeah. I was a barista for a little bit.
Okay.
I was studying a marketing degree, working as a barista. Went into marketing for about a year and a half. Didn't have the best time.
Okay.
I've managed to merge the two, which is pretty cool. But,
I mean, personally, I'm not a natural fan.
Really?
Okay.
No, a traditional Brazil natural is okay.
Yeah.
But it's these quite fruity naturals. And I think my dislike of them comes from when I was doing my training in Papua New Guinea, where it's a washed coffee, but a lot of it then was washed by smallholders. And so if they didn't clean the fermentation tanks properly, you'd get a stinker coming through and a fermented cup coming through.
I see.
And when you were tasting all the coffees prior to blending, you know, every morning you'd be tasting 100, 200 cups of coffee. The one key thing you were looking for was fermented. And that alarm bell rang.
Oh, really?
And for me, they're not the same, but they're similar. And so for me, I just can't get on with these naturals.
Really?
But for the industry, it's great, because if you don't like one type of coffee, there's another one you can try.
Yeah.
And some people you come across in your social life, they say, "Oh, I don't like coffee. I don't drink coffee. There's nothing I like." That's well, you haven't tried the right one yet.
Exactly.
I say that to my partner on a daily basis because she always says, "I don't like coffee." Yeah. I'm like, "No, you just don't like bad coffee." Yeah. And I'm the same. Like she'll try. We went away somewhere a few weeks ago. I won't say where this was, but we went to a pretty subpar cafe.
Yes.
And she tried the coffee, and I was like, "It's going to put you off." Like, I wouldn't enjoy this coffee either.
No.
But yeah.
Well, I'm still yet to win my wife round.
Yeah.
My wife was won over by a Dutch friend.
Oh, really?
Who used to make Dutch milky coffee.
Okay.
And now she drinks cafetiere at home with me.
Nice.
And she'll put a little bit of milk in, but she won't put sugar in. So she's a convert.
What would you drink at home normally?
I tend to go, as we say, washed coffees.
Yeah.
It will be a washed Honduras. It will be a decent Colombian. It will be a nice Brazil. And I buy them back from our customers.
Really?
I'm a mail order customer.
Yeah, very nice.
Do you not have endless free samples at work?
Do you know, a couple of people who I started buying said, well, "You don't need buyers, just we'll send it to you." I said, "No, I want to be able to keep buying, so I buy it." So I have an account with them. Yeah. So
good for you.
No,
nice.
That way I feel I can order as much as I want when I want.
It's research.
Interestingly, I don't actually drink a lot of coffee at home.
No.
I reckon by the time it comes to the weekend, I've drunk so much during the week here that I kind of need to just go a bit easy on it. So,
well, I'll drink it in the morning at home. Mm-hmm. But if I'm going to the office, then it's first thing in the morning, it's a cup of tea.
Really? Yeah.
And then it's tea and then it's coffee in the office.
Yeah. I would always, first drink of the day is a coffee when I get to work for me. So.
Yeah.
So Max, tell us a little bit about what the relationship is between Bridge and DR Wakefield. How long have we been working together?
So we have been working together now for 5 or 6 years, I want to say.
Yeah.
Interestingly, we've been working with DR Wakefield ever since we started roasting, and it actually became I knowing a bit about the coffee industry, but from all my history in the coffee industry was buying from third-party white label roasters, as you know. So, and the guys that we were very upfront with what we were planning to do with our third-party roasters, and whilst they got it and they understood it and they were okay with it by and large, they weren't that interested in helping us do it.
Yeah,
which is understandable. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, in essence, they were going to lose a customer they'd had for 20 years.
Yes.
So it was pretty much good old Google, actually, where I came across DR Wakefield first of all.
Right.
So, and then, to be fair to Henry, who I think has been there since the very beginning, there was another guy as well. I can't remember his name now. Jamie.
Yes.
That's right.
Jamie's still with us.
Okay, that's good. And then, so he was very helpful initially, and then Henry came on the scene pretty quick, and he's been brilliant, quite frankly. Right. He's always been my go-to guy from day one, as to sort of help us get off the ground with green coffee, and it's been an invaluable service, to be fair to him. So shout out to Henry.
Oh,
nice. If you're watching.
No doubt he will. But so that's where it started, and it's. I mean, we still use DR Wakefield. The majority of our coffee still comes from you guys, and I don't see that changing in the sort of foreseeable future. Just like the fact that it's dependable, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of your USPs, isn't it?
It's yes. I mean, we think so. It's consistency.
Yeah.
And you want to we don't look upon the thing of gaining an account by price.
No.
Because you're going to lose them on price.
Yep.
We look for that long-term relationship, and we feel that we can add value to a part of the chain. Mm-hmm. And we've always introduced roasters to our suppliers. It's been a big thing about what we do.
Yep.
And the more each other knows about each other's business, the more all can flourish.
Absolutely. And we say with our customers that it's not kind of like a supplier-customer relationship. It's more like a partnership.
Yeah.
And I feel that's also very important with our supply chain, and definitely have that with Henry and the guys that sort of back Henry up in your office there. So works really well for us.
Yeah, that's good. Good to hear. Thank you. No, I think it's sharing of information as well.
Yeah.
And
I do have that sort of relationship, or we do where I'll phone. I've done it just in the last couple of weeks. We're working on such and such a contract.
Yes.
Like, what can you do to help us out? Like, what should we offer? And we'll talk it through with him. And that's such a. To a certain extent, he's been our sort of acting head of coffee in some instances.
Yeah.
And that level of service is really useful.
Well, that's what we should be. You know, you don't really. The only time you ever see our name anywhere out there is when someone uses one of our coffee sacks on the wall.
Yeah, which is not infrequent. Actually.
No, it's not now. One of my daughters went to university in Bristol.
Okay.
And up until then, in the family, it was Dad goes to work and Dad's in coffee. Yeah. And it was only when she started going to some of the coffee shops in Bristol and saw our sacks on the wall that it became quite cool.
Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. You ever drink coffee with milk?
I do.
You do?
Saturday and Sunday morning, I drink it with a bit more milk than my wife does.
Oh, really?
And I put a little bit of sugar in it.
Do you?
Wow.
I do on Saturday, Sunday morning.
That's really interesting.
It's the rest of the day I don't. It's just that, you know, it's when it's a relaxed breakfast. It might be with some croissants or something, and I just at the end of the day drink coffee how you like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The only time I ever put sugar in coffee is if I'm in southern Italy.
Someone to take the edge off.
Well, often they pretty much put it in for you. I found in a cafe.
They can do, sometimes multiple spoons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's pretty much the only time I put it in. But
So one of like the main standout coffees from our range that we get from you guys at DR Wakefield is the Cafe Femenino from Peru. Tell us a little bit about how that project started.
We didn't start it for a start. Again, I think it's having this open relationships with people, and we've been to Origin on numerous occasions, and we've met other traders, and we actually met up with OPCO, who were it stood for Organic Product Trading Company, which was a West Coast green bean importer. A niche one run by a husband and wife, Garth and Gay Smith, and we met with them at a conference with Swiss Water Decaf, I believe it was, and we started talking to them about what they do, and we were looking for different projects, and we were working some in fair trades and such like. So, well, we've got this fair trade organic producer in Peru, and it started talking about how women were involved in coffee. And generally at Origin, quite often you used to see it that the women did all the work, and then the men sold it and then spent it.
Yep.
It didn't create sustainability. And once we started talking to Gay about this, we've got this co-op who it's just the women that do all the work, and then they market it themselves. And because they're marketing it, they actually get quite often a better price than the men are doing.
Really?
And then they invest the money back into their family rather than spending it. And like a lot of these things, it takes time to change a culture. And it took a few years before the other men in the co-ops actually understood that actually this was better for the family and better for all of them. And that's when it started to flourish. And Peru was the starter, and then it moved in some of the other origins. And so we kind of operated as their agent in the UK, but the proceeds go directly back to the cooperative.
That's really interesting. I was going to ask that. Like, how does, like, in essence, it's changing something that's been a certain way for generations, isn't it?
Yeah.
And flipping it on its head.
It is.
But how did that happen? Like, was it a conscious decision, or?
Absolutely. I think because as one of the things my father used to say about the industry was he came to one of the SCA conferences in the US
a
a number of years ago when he was still able to travel, And one of the ladies out there said to him from doTERRA, so what's changed in the industry since you've been? He said, the amount of women.
Really?
He said when he joined, there were you could count women on one hand. And there's a lot more involved in it now. And I think as a lot of them were going to Origin, they saw, they had the conversations with the producer groups and started to see what was going on there and see, well, can we do something to try and develop this and move it on?
That's really interesting. And I mean, we find it, there's some, it's one of the few messages behind a coffee where people will actually buy it without even tasting it.
Okay.
Because of the message.
Yeah.
We've actually got that. We've got a white label product that we do for somebody that they signed up without even tasting the coffee just because of the message behind it.
Yeah.
That shows how powerful it is.
Yeah. And I think when you ever do these sorts of things, you can't take it for granted that people will do that.
No,
and
you can't
take them for granted that you're going to deliver them something substandard.
No.
So you have to, and they, as it happens, they do. The product is always good.
Yeah.
Are there any other projects like that going on around the world with your partners?
There's lots, and we learnt a long time ago not to tell them what projects we were going to do.
No.
Because a number of people say, oh, what we'd like to do is, perhaps I'd like to support the local school in my local village here, so I'd like to support the school out there and give them books.
Okay.
And it didn't work because that co-op didn't need books, or that community didn't need books.
Yeah.
They needed something else.
Yeah.
So we started asking what we could do, and we started a project called One to One, where we would get one single farmer in the cooperative, process his coffee, that we could then, when we put their names on the bags, and then bring it over to the roasters, and so you could have a direct relationship, and you could send a message back to that one producer, and it would create a little thing. And this worked really well in some origins, but other origins, it said it's actually alienating those individuals from the co-op.
I see. Yeah, okay.
So I said, okay, well, how about we make it bigger? So what would they said? We would like it to be a community lot. And so we moved it onto a community. So Costa Rica's now community lots rather than one-to-ones.
I noticed that.
And then when you start talking to the communities, they say, well, what we'd really like now is the premium we're paying is during the season that we get coffee out. It's the wet season and the roads are impassable. So we want to build the road from us to the main road.
Yeah.
We're not talking about big tar macadam things, but it's a constructed road rather than a quagmire.
Yeah.
We've worked with honey projects where there's a biodiversity that helps to pollinate the coffee trees, but also it gives them an extra income, and they can sell that into their local market.
Wow.
We've worked with replanting, with deforestation and such like, and creating a biodiversity because shade trees not only give shade, but they also create a different biodiversity for the wildlife.
Yeah.
And that helps with pollinations and other. So there's all sorts of different projects that we hear about from what goes on at Origin.
Right.
Yes, we've supported some schools.
And you're just shouting about them?
No, well, we do an annual report on them.
Okay.
And it sort of tots up what we spent in each one. And when I say what we've spent, part of it's our donations, but part of it's from premiums that we've allocated to the coffee, so that the roasters can also get some value add from it. Because without the roaster, we don't have a project, and the the producer doesn't have a project.
And we're kind of piggybacking on some of that as well, or starting to at least. For example, is it the Trillion project at
That's right, at doTERRA. Yeah.
I've got a call just in a couple of weeks' time with them, which has been arranged by Henry. So we're keen to be part of that. So that's like a story that you've been a big part of, and then it gives us the opportunity to be part of that as well.
Yes.
What is that exactly?
It's their idea to plant 1 trillion coffees. So
1 trillion trees.
Sorry. You are listening.
I am.
Yeah, to plant 1 trillion trees, because they are a rainforest farm, but again, doTERRA was a farm that was set up to, if you like, they understood what wasn't working in Brazil, in coffee production in Brazil, and for the first few years, he was getting a lot of aggressive comments and threats from other farmers nearby.
Oh, really?
because he was paying his farmers too much, and he was giving creches for mothers, and
Oh wow.
they were washing down the farm machinery rather than reusing the water.
He was getting threats for doing the right thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
And after about three or 4 years, he said there were those same people coming and knocking on his door saying, "Can you show me how to do it, please?"
Oh really?
So they've always been into how the environment, and a lot of the farm is put to natural land. So, and part of their idea was to actually can they plant some more trees? But they're in the savannah, so it's not a natural forested area.
Okay.
But they're doing what they can where they can. So
That's really interesting. No, keen to be a part of that. Keen to learn more about it. So.
Gabrielle is a great one to talk to.
Okay.
And he will fill you in with every item, every detail.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that.
Yeah. What kind of difference does it make having that traceability in the coffee supply chain?
Pride.
Yeah.
If the producer knows where that coffee's going, they take great pride in what they produce. And if they can see it and it's got their name on it, I mean, we've had numerous producers over the years come over, and we've taken them into a coffee shop and they've seen their coffee with their name on it on the shelf.
Yeah. That means so much.
It means so much.
Yeah.
And it's another reason we put our name on the sacks, because we want the producers and the people in the warehousing who pack the green sacks to know where that coffee's going, because we want them to know that we keep buying year after year after year, and it's not just a one-off because it suited us. And I think if you can understand where the coffee's coming from, you get a relationship, and business is difficult enough at the best of times. If you can trust and know your supply chain and your customer chain, they can sell to us knowing that they're going to get paid. They knowing that they can sell us 100 bags of this coffee year after year, or 10 containers of year after year, whatever the volume for that farm might be. And if they know it's going on to Bridge, they take pride in that relationship, and it makes the relationship that much easier, that you can sleep at night. As I say, there's so many curveballs that come your way. Why make more?
It's so interesting to hear it from that angle. I mean, traceability in coffee, something we talk about quite a lot with our clients, and sort of in the industry it's spoken about a lot. And it's always from the other way, in the sense that it's, or I say always, often in our experience, like our customers want to see the traceability back to the farmer. Yeah. But to hear you talk about it from the farmer to the person, that's really interesting. That is.
Yeah. No, they get lots of pride. And when we've gone out to Origin with customers and taking customers along, one of the things we always say, please bring some coffee.
Really?
With their coffee in your bag. Yeah. And if you can't get that through customs for whatever reason, please bring some empty bags that they can fill up or put on their displays. And it means a lot.
That's very cool.
That's so interesting.
Like your daughter in Bristol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Who now sits on the trade desk with Henry.
Wow.
Brilliant. Yeah. I think it might not be Henry, but I think someone publishes a daily market report.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, about keeping the pulse on what's happening with coffee pricing.
I mean, I think that's, we view that as part of our role, because there's so many reports out there that you could spend all day reading different reports and getting so many different views, you haven't got a clue which way the market's going. Yeah. And they can be, some of the reports are not relevant to your industry. So it's important that we do a report that does touch base on what the New York coffee market's doing, what the currency's doing, and reference it to what it makes to our business and your business. Yeah. So they take it in turns to do the report from the different traders, but it's a DR Wakefield sort of themed, because each trader will have a slightly different take on the market. Because we're all people. Yeah. But you'll find that we'll all generally think it's going up, or we all generally think it's going down.
Yeah. The theme is the same.
The theme is the same.
Well, I diligently read every one that comes through. So.
Yeah. And I think we also try and put it in, without sounding wrong, put it in layman's terms as well. The terminology that makes a difference.
I think that's
understand.
important. I think that is really important. I mean, I've spoken to traders over the years in different organisations, and you come off the phone and think, well, what was that conversation that I've just had? I've got no idea what they're even talking about.
Well, this is we read some reports from some markets, and they're talking about bulls and bears, and then you read another report and they're talking dovish or hawkish.
Yeah.
And the two are very similar, but and you need to understand this.
I remember probably 6 or 7 years ago now. Actually, it's interesting you say that. Literally coming off the phone from someone and then Googling what is a bear run.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But
what is that?
Sorry?
What is that?
The expert's right here.
Exactly. But until you know these things and you start talking to them on a regular basis. Yeah, and the bull run is the one you got the thing by the horns. It's going to run off and it's going to go up.
Yeah.
Right. A bear's going to snuggle and bring it down a bit. But go into hibernation. So, but they're the sorts of way I remembered it.
Yeah,
but,
that's good. It's interesting.
What's it like being the middleman between farmer and producer and roaster?
How long have you got? On the whole, we relish what we do, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I couldn't do the job of a roaster. I couldn't talk to the general public.
Oh, really?
I really couldn't, no.
Why not? I'm glad you can't, but why not?
Some of them are listening.
I think it's how your brain functions.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I want to talk to somebody who, the same people again and again and again about the project. So if you're looking for a coffee, I know what you want, and I know when is the best time to get it, what time to put your buying plan in, what difference it makes with the producer, what do they need, what commitment do they need. So I much prefer to deal with that sort of in between scenario, and we're a catalyst. So we find something at both ends of the market, and we bring the two parties together. And there's quite a lot of satisfaction in that. So every now and then you'll find that someone will cut us out, and that's when people say, well, are you frightened of being cut out? I said, no, not at all. Every now and then we will, but it usually comes back to us.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
How has that been in since COVID? Prices has been like all over the place. How has that been managing that between the farmers and the roasters?
It's been a real challenge. But again, I think when COVID happened, a lot of our customers are private businesses. A lot of our suppliers are private businesses or farmer-owned cooperatives. And everyone's wanted to work together. And there's been real working together to get through these challenges. And when things have been late, people have understood because the message has come across. It's late because, not because we're trying to pull a fast one.
No.
We don't need this coffee at the moment because our sales have dropped on it. Yeah. Can we find a new home for it? Of course we can. Where someone else will want it. And so I think initially, I think a lot of these things you think, oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? But you do, because we're people and we adapt, and we adapt pretty quickly.
We do.
So one of the things we as a middleman we've found has been a real struggle is freight rates and bookings, because our cost of shipping went through the roof, and it might. When some of our coffee from Papua New Guinea, we might have been paying $1,800 a container. It went up to $15,000 a container. So that's a lot of money to absorb. Is. And in a lot of deals, we can't. That's taken our margin and more.
Yeah, for sure.
But other times it works the other way around as well. Yeah. So, and you listen to people and you talk to people and you come through the other end.
And I've noticed recently, probably more so this year than ever, correct me if I'm wrong, but that certain coffees just aren't available right now. They're just like, in terms of I'm talking on spot or whatever.
Yes.
I've never really noticed it as much as I am at the moment, where certain coffees I look at a list and it says, well, not available until a few months' time.
Yes. I think that's come about. One is we all know that there is climate change happening, and some of the crops are not coming through at the times that they thought they would, or during the drying season it's rained, so they haven't had to dry them, been able to dry them in the same way.
Ethiopia have had that problem, haven't they?
And Ethiopia have,
but
also now Ethiopia's had another problem, which is the shipping in the Red Sea. And sometimes you have to get your coffee in a container and move it. And then we found that where is it from the shipping line? Eventually they said, we're actually transshipping it in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
There is no logic there, but that's apparently where the ships were going, and that's where they're trying. And it, instead of being a four-week transit, it ended up being 3 months. And so you are finding things. And the other issue that I think everyone's noticed, interest rates kept going up and up and up. And so pre-COVID, it was very cheap to keep coffee in destination warehouses. With interest rates where they move to, and your charges on top, it's become expensive to hold coffee.
Right.
So unless you're going to get that interest charge in your sale price, people have been holding lower stocks as well.
That's really interesting.
So how much coffee do you guys hold on to at any one time? Or is it in those warehouses?
We probably try and run about 3 months stock if we can, but it's a rolling stock. We've probably brought that down to 6 weeks or so, thereabouts. But
and is that purely down to the volatility of the market, or
not dramatically?
Okay.
The more commercial a coffee is, the more stock you will hold.
Yeah, for sure.
The more speciality, you will hold it tighter, and you want more commitment from roasters before you buy a year's stock.
Okay.
The last drop of that coffee was quite cold.
Yeah.
When we were doing our tasting in P&G, ready for export, you used to have to taste them all in the morning, and they were left out, and you had to go back in the afternoon and taste them when they were cold, when they'd sat and drawn from the grounds.
Okay.
And it's how the different flavours, as the coffee cools, we know this now, but the different flavours do come out. Even if they're not sitting on the grounds, it will change.
Definitely. Well, that's interesting, because I'll often, when we're cupping here, I'll often just, for no other reason other than my own interest, go back to if the bowls are still out an hour later.
Yes.
And it is cold by then, but you get a completely different experience, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What else have you seen in terms of the industry catching on with stuff that you've maybe known for a few years?
The different packaging's coming through.
Okay.
And it's not always doesn't always help sometimes. And bulk containers came in with the bigger buyers, where it's 21.6 tons blown into a container coming through. It's not always easy to manage that quality come through. You've got to have the after checks to make sure it's okay. Vacuum boxes, been buying deterrers with 12.5 kilo vacuum bags, 2 in a box.
Yeah.
Jute bags have now, some of them, Brazil were quite a pioneer on this, using the recycled plastic for making the bags that look like jute. And now we have to pay for those because we get hit with plastic tax as an importer in the UK, in Europe.
So when you were talking about the containers, is that when I've heard of people literally turning a container on its end and just filling it with coffee? Is that
correct?
Right? Yeah. So there's no bags, there's no anything. You've just got one massive lump of green coffee.
Yeah.
Open the door and it's
it has one of those polypropylene liners to it,
right?
With a kind of like an elephant's trunk at the bottom.
Yeah. I've always wondered how do you process that in a roastery? I mean, if you were to send us a container of coffee that was literally rammed with coffee, like what do we do with that?
You need to be prepared for it. The first person that we sold a bulk container to in the UK had a pit built in the floor of the roastery, and with an elevator to lift it up. And this pit was big enough to take a sack at a time, or maybe 2 sacks at a time. And this container, they opened the doors, and it wasn't coming out of the elephant's trunk quickly enough, so they slisted along the bottom.
Really?
And 10 ton of coffee or something ended up on the floor, and the rest was still in there. If you use the elephant's trunk, you can control it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the bigger roasters will have a big pit that can cope with it, that will then move it directly into a silo. It's quite doable.
Fair enough. Wow.
Or you have we've seen it in the past where they have a rotating razor blades, and the sack gets put into that and cuts the sack up, and the beans fall through into the silo at the bottom, and the jute gets taken off and blown out.
Wow.
So DR Wakefield recently achieved B Corp status.
Yes.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah.
What does that signify about the culture?
Well, we've always tried to be, probably me, because that's where it started from, about pioneers and be the first to do it. And I think with our culture of coffee and knowing what difference it makes to the producers, it's why we were very much in the early days of rainforest, which we introduced to the UK, fair trade and organic. And then it's been part of our culture and doing those things, and it's all about certifications that are more about origins than it is us. Mm-hmm. And then a few years ago, the traders, Chris, Phil, Henry, heard this thing about B Corp, and would I be interested in doing that, because it's about us and seeing what we do. Are we, do we do what we say we do? And I thought, well, let's go for it. And I think it was 3 years ago we got approved. We scored, I think it was just under about 80 odd.
Yep.
84 points or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Out of 100.
No, I think it's 100 and I forget what it is. It's 160, 180 or something. Yeah. It's pretty hefty.
Okay.
And so that was a good starter. You had to get over 80.
Yeah.
And I think
that's the threshold, isn't it?
It was, 80. Yeah. And our goal for this time was to be over 90, and we scored. It was 109.
Oh, fair.
So,
well done.
So we came in pretty well.
Yeah, good.
What are some of the criteria that's based on?
It's things that we do. It's how we operate. So it's looking at our internal processes. It's looking at who we employ or who's on the team.
Yeah.
Do we have a diverse a member of staff? Yes, we do, and we've always had quite a mixture. And in London, the communities there's lots of different cultures.
Yeah.
It looks at how we do and how we look after people. We do health and welfare. We have away days where we get speakers in to look after well-being. It's the health packages we offer. It's insurance covers we give. It's giving members of staff financial advice independently. So it's looking after the people and making sure that we do the right thing.
What does your day-to-day look like these days?
Not what it looked like a few years ago.
Yeah.
So no, I'm more of a, for want of a better word, I suppose I'm a bit of a figurehead more than a day-to-day. Mm-hmm. Terry Sparling joined us just over a year ago as our MD, and on day-to-day managing, it's with him. Mm-hmm. I place an awful lot of responsibility with our heads of departments. So we've got the three on the coffee trading desk, being Priscilla, Phil, Henry, and then we've got Carol, who heads up the finance department, and we've got Helen, who heads up the logistics, and then Thierry, who heads up the QA. So I interact with them. I keep touch with what's going on, but I don't like interfering,
no.
which could be something very easy to do. So
Yeah.
I tend to stay back and I help where I can. I steer and guide where I can.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
coach.
That's good.
So yeah, I don't trade anymore.
Do you miss it?
Yeah.
Really?
I do. This week, driving around going around on the motorbike, seeing a few customers, a number of them I've known for many years.
Yeah, okay.
You get back into the swing of things. I do enjoy it. It's the people bit that I like. It's not necessarily just the coffee bit. It's the people.
Meeting people and interacting.
It is. And if I was going to go around on the bike for a week by myself, I'd be lonely. And it's nice to be able to come in and talk to people. And that's what I miss. It's people.
Fair enough.
And I've said before that, coffee, we're a people business, and it happens to be held together by the coffee.
That's really interesting. We would view ourselves similarly.
Okay.
So it's all about the people, 100%.
A lot of similarities between the two businesses.
More than I realised, actually. So it's good to chat about it.
And I heard as well that they say that you become like the 6 most people you spend most time with as well.
Okay.
So it's so important that the people you work with, you get on with.
Definitely.
And you can gel with and you can trust.
Yeah.
And it's that model has to expand out to your supply chain and your customer base.
100% it does, yeah. I think we've got a good culture here, haven't we? I would say probably better coming from you than me. But,
I'm on camera, but
that's good.
And I think it's when other people in the company come up with ideas, and you like to say, yes, let's do it. That's a great idea. We'll run with that one. And when you do support these ideas, you get buy-in straight away. And it was great that someone else came up with this B Corp. Would you be interested? Absolutely. Let's give it a whirl. And when you have an independent auditor to start looking at your own business, it's good because it keeps you up to date.
Yeah, and keeps you on your toes,
It does keep you on your toes.
Doesn't let you get complacent or anything.
No. So, I'm a great believer in audits.
Cool. I think we'll leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it's always nice to talk about something that's close to your heart and something that's always been in the blood and in your life.
It's not a difficult conversation, is it?
It's not. No. Coffee's always been there, probably always will be.
Yeah.
You,
running in your veins.
It is, but it's when people say, is coffee addictive? I said, no, it's the industry that's addictive.
Yeah,
it's the people.
That's true. Well, I've said that to a few people over the years, because somebody said it to me years ago, is that when you get into the coffee industry, if you don't get out within 12 months, you're probably in it for life.
Yeah. We went to one of the SCA conferences a number of years ago, and I was sitting in the bar on the last day of the conference, which had been about 4 days there.
Yeah.
And we were there. A lot of people arrived the day before or 2 days before.
Yeah.
And it was my Aussie mate, and who's got a similar business to us in Melbourne. And I shared a house with him in Papua New Guinea, so we still keep in contact.
Yeah,
It's 35, 40 years ago. And the barman came up to us as we were first in there. He said, "So what do you lot do?" I said, "Well, we're in the coffee industry." Wow. I said, "Why'd you ask?" Because this is a hotel attached to a conference centre. Every week of the year, we have a different industry in this building. And he said, "I've never known the bar to be packed every single night, from when it opens to when it closes, with everybody talking to everybody. Old people talking to young people, suited people talking to people in shorts and tattoos and different things, men talking to women, different religions, every colour people all talking together."
Just all talking together.
He said, "I want to be in your industry." And what
so
better compliment to the industry could you get?
Yeah.
I mean, I've not been in the industry that long, but I'm a big fan.
That's so true, and it's actually not a massive industry, is it?
No.
No.
We do all sort of know each other to a certain extent, don't we?
Yeah.
We even find, even amongst roasters, I mean, technically, we're competitors, but there's a sort of a relationship and a kind of I don't know exactly.
Mutual respect.
Mutual respect, I think that's probably a good way. Where you don't, I'll happily have another roaster here, and I've been to other roasters, and you talk about sort of what they're up to and stuff. I don't reckon that would happen in many industries.
No. Well, you wouldn't, but also you can get, said it before, you can have the same coffee. It's roasted by 2 different people on the same machine, and will give a different product.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, and if the temperatures are different, like outside, the ambient temperatures, all these different things add to it.
Absolutely, they do.
You can put your own mark on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
good.
Thank you.
I feel like we could probably chat.
I'll add that little bit in extra. Yeah.